Okay, so we're all set. I'm getting ready to make some new planks, especially for this course, because my other ones are kind of worn out and looking ucky. So I thought I'd show you how we actually made them. So this is the starting point. So a visit to Lowe's this morning. So what we're looking at is this piece of wood right here, and that piece of wood over there. You see they're longer than the one in the middle. They're 6 feet long. This one is an 8-inch board, and that is a 12-inch board. That's the width, and they are 1 inch thick. So let me just show you, and whoops, you get to see the floor. There they are, right there. Now I don't use plywood. I hate plywood. I don't like the surface on it. And these are nice, and plywood comes in 4x6 sheets, and you end up with a lot of waste. The other piece that I have here, this is actually, and these are all, this is the length that they come, so they can fit in any car. This is actually a 1/2 inch thick, and it's only 24 inches long. It's actually considered to be craft wood, but it's designed for smaller dogs. Hi, Cuddy. So I'm going to, these pieces of wood, this is going to give me enough for 5 boards, and because I travel with them, I'm actually going to make them 5 different, subtly different lengths, so that the two made out of this wider one over here, one will slide inside the other one, and these guys, I'm going to make them so that they slide inside each other, and obviously this one will. The other thing I'm going to do is, because of the different types of dogs that I work with, and to show you guys, I'm going to have them with different heights. So over here, now this isn't all I'm going to use, this is just a sample. These are 2x4s, cut down. These are leftovers from some other projects that we did. So little pieces of 2x4, and again, if you put a measuring tape on these, you'll see, you know, over the last 35-40 years, a 2x4 is no longer a 2x4, it's a 1.5x3, but they actually call it a 2x4. And you're going to end up cutting this down to the width of the board. So in this case, we're going to cut it down to this size right there. But this is what we started with. I have this one in here just to show you. I don't like working with this really rough kind of stuff. I find it just, invariably you end up with a sliver. So if you happen to have the nicer ones, then do that. This one over here, let me just get this one up for you. This one is a 1-inch piece of hardwood left over from a furniture project that someone in the house was doing. I'm actually going to use that with the smaller board, and I'll explain why a little later on. So everything I have out here is what I use. So you can either use masking tape or painter's tape, blue or green, doesn't matter. Again, leftover sanding stuff that we have from another project, just to take the rough edges off. So this is furniture grade, so it's got a pretty square edge. I just like to I just run over it like once or twice just to take that rough corner off it. You don't have to, but that's just my personal preference. Obviously, I'm going to be using a paintbrush of some sort. I haven't decided which one I'm going to use. I just my supply of paintbrushes is kind of limited right now, but it's not. We're not talking about doing a wall here. Screws. You're going to need wood screws, and if you're not familiar with wood screws, they're different than other screws. They have the top part of them doesn't have. I'll show you on these ones if you can get them really close up. You see the top half of them, that part doesn't have any thread on them. That's what keeps it nice and clean. And you'll want to drill a little pilot hole both in this wood here and also into the braces. Pilot hole being a little teeny drill bit that's quite a bit smaller than this, the size of the screw. That's just to keep this stuff from splitting. You don't want to do all this work and then have your wood split. So I've got 2-inch screws, 2-inch screws for the bigger ones that are going to be going into the into these braces like this. They'll be going down, so there's lots of room. And I've got the shorter ones here designed for when we turn this over, or on this shorter piece of wood here. Really super important. This is anti-skid. It's a lot. It's a little package, but it actually does a lot. You mix it into the paint, it stops it's just exactly what it says. It's anti-skid. So if your dogs have wet feet or anything like that, it just adds a little bit of traction, and I do like having that. My tape measure and my pencil, because we have some marking to do. My drill, we just use an ordinary everyday Black & Decker drill. It's not our real good one, but it works well for this. The only thing you'll need that for is to do your pilot holes. So, you can borrow one from somebody. We've got some leftover paint, and again, you can just grab these at Lowe's or Sherwin-Williams or Home Depot or whatever you do. These are samplers. And these just happen to be some funky colors, and that's what we're going to go with. And you'll need a thing of wood glue. I love my wood glue. I glue anything to do with wood. I glue it on first, then I screw it together. It just makes it so much easier to work with things. It gives it. Wood glue actually replicates a piece of wood, so it works really, really nicely. And just in case, I brought my funky light down, but I'm not going to need that because it's really bright in here. So let's get you going on how we're going to do this. So we're going to always start working on a nice clean workspace. So we're going to start with the widest board, Ducati, and we're going to measure it up. We know right now that it is, it's 72 inches long, give or take a little bit. So 42 inches is ideal for my bigger dogs. So if I went to 42, that would give me a nice long board, and then that would give me a 30-inch board on the end, because there are dogs, like the bulldogs for example, that have a wider stance but need a shorter board. So that makes sense to do that. So I'm going to go 42. So if you're not familiar with how to do this, I know this is a DIY. So the tape measure, there's a little end on it. Okay, so I just hooked that over the end of the board, open this up right to 42 on this side. See, I'm on this side of the board, and I just mark it 42 like that, just a nice line. And then I'm one of those measure 5 times, cut once, because I suck at measuring and cutting. So both sides of the board. So I've measured on this side. Ducati, please get out of there. She's exploring in the basement. So I've cut on this side of the board, and now I'm going to, I've marked on this side of the board. So on this side of the board, I just slide across. I'm over to 42 inches. And I'm not going to measure the other end. I know roughly it's going to be 30 inches, and that's fine. So that's my marking. So on. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab my other board. So I want to do all these things all at once, just so that you see how it does. You're not going to do this. You're not going to be doing multiple boards, or if you really like to, you can also do that. But because I've got multiple boards, that's what I'm going to do. So again, I've got it up on the surface. This one, I know it's the same length, but just because, I'm going to measure it up. Again, 72 inches, give or take. And this board is the narrower one. So this is the 8-inch board. And again, like I said, even though they're 8 inches, they're really not 8 inches. That's their technical term for it. This is actually 7 1/4, just over 7 1/4 inches wide. So it's a smaller board. So with the narrower width, you're also dealing with typically shorter dogs, so you don't need to go long of 42. Typically on this size, I would use about a 30-inch board. That would be my norm for this size. And then, like the other one, that would leave me with a 42-inch board, and that's okay. So if you're doing it for yourself, I would be cutting at about 32 inches. You might do 24 inches, but 30 inches, or maybe at this time I'll do 36. If I do 36, I've got 2 36s, but I want them to be able to sit inside each other. So let's go 32 and 40. And it's not scientific, it's just sort of kind of ballpark. So I'm doing the same thing. So at 32 inches on this side of the board, oops, sorry, you're watching over there. At 32 inches on this side of the board, and then over here on this side of the board, I'm going to measure at 32 inches. Right there, so I've got that one marked off. And if you're doing a smaller board, if you're doing for your micro dogs, you don't need to go any smaller than this. This board is a 6-inch board. Again, it's 5.5 inches, but it's classed as a 6-inch board. It's all pre-cut, everything like that. It's 24 inches long, so it's 2 feet long. If you have a little dog like a Maltese, a Papillon, Yorkie, Chihuahua, any of those little mixes, you know, the something poos on the end of it, you don't need anything. You don't need to shorten it. You don't need to shorten it up. This is a nice size to work with. It's nice and comfortable. So I wouldn't do any cutting on that particular board at all. So now we're going to get over to cutting. So you can see on my board these little marks. That's my mark at the where I wanted. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to draw a line between those two. I find it easier for me to cut, and because of the width of these board, we've got to use a circular saw. If it was a narrower board, obviously we could use this. We could use a miter saw, but we've got to use a circular saw, which is why we're on this. If you can get them cut at Home Depot, all the better. So much easier. So simple as that. It's all cut, and if you happen to have a circular saw with a laser beam cutter on it, a laser beam on it, it's awesome. But I know if you have a circular saw, you know how to use it. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start cutting our pieces that are the braces for the bottom. So these are our 2x4 pieces that we're going to cut into to match the width of the board. So there's the rough stuff that I'm starting with. And remember, when we were talking about these pieces, they are not what they're sold as. So don't go cutting these based on like 8 inches wide, because you'll have pieces sticking out the side. So I go back, remeasure these so you know what your width is, and then you're going to cut your piece. So my first piece that I'm cutting is going to be 9 1/8, because my piece of wood that was supposed to be 10 inches long, not supposed to be, they're whatever they're going to be, is actually 9 1/8. So I'm going to cut, I'm going to mark it off right at 9 1/8, and that's going to match. And I do it at both ends of the long piece of wood just to make sure. I know they're pretty much the same, but I just double check. Okay? So here's what you want to avoid. So this is an offcut from a piece that we had before. So it's about 30 inches long, but look at how it wows up on the side. You see there's space underneath. So I don't want twisted pieces, so I'm not going to use this end down here. You see how that should be lying flat. See, this end is flat, so I'm going to cut from this end down here so I don't end, because it won't hold your board properly if it's twisted. So be careful when you're choosing your wood that you choose the straightest possible. And there we go. Our cutting is all done. And again, remember, you're only doing one board, maybe two, depending on the size of the wood that you got. I'm doing 6 boards because that's what I've got. So this is for my short boards. So we've got they're going to go on this way. So we've got 2 for the small dogs, a little bit higher lip for them. For the medium-sized board, I've got 3 supports that are going to go on that way, making it about 1.5 inches high, and then 3 supports that are going to go on this way, which makes it about 3.5 inches high. So 2 same lengths, 2 different challenges, and I haven't yet decided what we're doing with the big ones, whether they're all going to go on standing up like that, or whether they're going to go lying down. And again, you can always change them afterwards, but I'm trying to get as many options in as I can. So now, sanding is the next step. So I'll show you one of those, and then I'll continue on with that. So you can see everything has now been sanded off. If you look, you'll see that there's no little bits sticking out the corner. And I sand everything. I sand all the pieces. And you can see these guys too. If I get close up, you'll see it's been sanded all the way along. So we're coming outside now. What time is it? It is spring. spring. And if at all possible, do your painting outside. So these boards, the first 3, have been primed. Okay, so you need to make sure you prime them, because you don't, the paint will just sink in and you'll just end up with not so nice. So they're outside here. They're outside for a little while, just getting dried off and enjoying the scenery. So here we are ready to do the glue on the wood. So I stand them up on end. I figure out which end is going to be facing down on the wood, the less good end. And then literally I just do a little zigzag. Not too much, because it'll squeeze out if you do. And I try to cover from side to side, end to end, like that. And I only do one at a time, okay? Because otherwise they start getting tacky. And they're not like crazy glue, but I just prefer to work one at a time. It's a little tidier. So once we've got that, then what we're going to do is we're going to take this, I'm going to move it over here. I've got my board. This is my underside. And I'm going to turn this piece over and line it up exactly where I want it to go on the end. So butted right up against the end on both sides. You can see there's a little bit of a lip, so I want to get rid of the little bit of a lip. And you can play, it's the joy of glue, you can play around with it for a little bit. And that's what I do. And then I take the tape, and I take 2 pieces, one on either side, and I tape it down and push it down, and then I tape it down. That keeps it in place. So once you've got this, I'll try and get out of the picture here. There we go. So once you've got your ends on, and remember, when once you've got the tape on, you can, if you bump it or anything like that, you can still move that end piece around to get it in the right spot, and then just sort of tighten it up with the tape a little bit. And then you need to do your middle one. So never rely on what you thought the length of it was. So remeasure. In this case, this one is 40 inches long. Now, I would not measure like this. I would turn it and attach it to the wood, but then you wouldn't be able to see the tape measure. So it's 40 inches long, and I'm looking for the exact center point, because that's where I'm going to center my next piece. And in this case, it's 20 inches, and I've just gone ahead and marked a piece on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glue on this. I'm going to put some glue on this one, and I'm going to sit it right like that. Right. See how it's centered, but I'm going to center it on the board, just like that. Glue it down, tape it up, and then I'm going to flip the board over, and then I'm going to pick up at pilot holes and screwing in the bases. So there we go, we're all set, everything's all taped on, and we're not taping on for a rocket launch, just taping on to keep those legs on. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to flip it over right side up. So now what we've done is the legs have been glued on and taped so that we could tip the board over. You see, each spot is taped, and it's just enough of a tightness so that it's sort of stuck up on there. I tend to step, after I've got them taped, I tend to step on them. Now what we're going to do is while the glue is still sticky, I'm going to drill a pilot hole. So this is a teeny tiny little drill, drill bit. This is a 1/16. I think you could probably use a 1/8 as well, but I don't have a 1/8 kicking around. But I'm literally just going to do a pilot hole in 3 spots, and I'll show you corresponding to what we did on the other ones. So in that sort of setup, along each one of them, we're going to drill three pilot holes. So for each one of these boards, if you're doing a bigger one, you're going to have three pilot holes. You just drill it in. It just it makes it easier so the board actually doesn't split. At least it's not supposed to. Okay. Now you can see that the pilot holes are in. Now I go right through the tape because it's not a big deal. It's just paper tape. So there's 9 pilot holes there. These are the screws that I use. They're a premium wood screw, and they go in so easily into new wood. They've got a piece up here. It's a secondary piece that holds them in really nicely. It's a standard, it's a wood screw, premium interior wood screw, and they come, you want some technical pieces, let me find them. They have a different top on them, so they actually come with a drill bit that's specific for it. I love these guys. They're awesome. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put all the screws in, and I'm going to put them in just so that the top of the screw is just below the surface of the wood. And I do it with a battery drill, not an electric drill. The electric drill will drive it right through the top board. Okay, so we're all set. I've got 5 of them done here. I've got the longer one on a 4-inch base. I've got sorry, not a longer one, a wider one. That's a 10-inch on a 4-inch base. I've got an 8-inch on a 4-inch base. I've got, but shorter, I've got an 8-inch on a 4-inch base, but longer. Got that one there. So I've got all sorts of different combinations, and one of the funky things about this is you can actually stack them up and line them up. This is a great thing. It's the cheap way to do stuff. Anyway, they're all ready. You can see 3 of them are already primed. I did them outside with a spray can of primer. That's why I did them separately. But these are all going to be one color, so you can do them either way. You can paint them before you put them together. You can paint them afterwards. So we're going to do some painting tomorrow. And there we go, all painted up. Primed first, painted up, and we have a whole bunch of orange planks. Shows up really well with my black dogs. So I hope you've got value out of this, that it's helped you. If you're not sure, certainly just get in touch with us at Moments for Excellence, and we'll help you out with this. But easy to do, especially with the help of the cutting at the store. Talk to you guys later.